Hello and welcome to The Hero Spouse. I'm Kenda Ruth and welcome to Facebook Live. We haven't done it for a while, so I might be a little bit creaky as I go through this. First, I'm going to start out with we are going live in 3 places. We are going live in a private Facebook group. If you're in the private Facebook group, your comments should be safe from anybody seeing them. If you're in the public Facebook fan page, however, if you make a comment, sometimes depending on how you have your notifications set up, if you comment, someone might see your comments that is outside of our group. Same thing with YouTube. We are live in a YouTube chat or YouTube on the YouTube channel. And again, anyone can see comments that are posted there. So I'm going to go into the 2 Facebook pages and post which one you're in case you don't know. So give me a moment as I get to each page. I'm also going to be refreshing my screen to make sure the pages are coming in. That way I can check that I am coming in and see that everything is working. Okay, looks good in the private group. So I'm putting the comment about you are in the private group, and I'm also putting a link to my free course, Understanding Midlife Crisis. If you haven't already enrolled in that, I recommend that. That is to help you get through the first few weeks, months, whatever, of raw, why is this happening to me? I don't understand. It's not meant to be the healing part. It's just meant to get you over the hump of understanding. So, comment should have just come through in the private group. Now onto the public page. Excuse me. Okay, it looks like we're coming through. Let me go and grab the comment. And feel free to comment in the chat. I have 8 questions printed out, but I know one of them wasn't clear, so there wasn't a real question in it. So 7 that I know I could discuss. If I have any time, you can keep asking questions in here. I don't know. 7 to 8 is usually what I can do in about an hour. And I do need to try and keep it as close to an hour as I can because I have to take my son to counseling. I have to be at the school at 3 o'clock to pick him up. So let's get started on the first few. Number 1, we have an anonymous female left behind and forward moving spouse. Her bomb drop is March 17th of this year, 2023. So this is very new. Date of marriage is July of 2002. She says that he's a clinging boomerang, but she doesn't know energy level terms yet. So she says, my husband is 42 years old. He started texting the alienator almost 2 years ago. But I found out he was having an affair with her in February. So I'm going to assume 2 years of a relationship and then just a few weeks ago, February, found out about the affair. He started sleeping with her in November of 2022. So they were having an affair for almost 18 months, a little more maybe, before you know that it went physical. He goes every weekend and stays a night or 2 and then comes home. He talks to her at home like it's normal on the phone. He doesn't care about anything in his family, his family or his children or his family in Mexico, and he is not even worried about his own health. What stage would you say he's in? They say they're in love, but this isn't this woman's first time cheating on her husband, but he doesn't believe me. First thing, stage he's in is escape and avoid. You have a bomb drop that was recent. You have an affair that is still recent, that it started as a physical affair in November, and as an emotional affair, it goes back. Bomb drop is when it becomes public, and they make you either make a discovery and let them know, or they say something, and oftentimes from that moment, everything changes. They'd been hiding something for a long time, but you didn't know it because they were hiding it. Now there are changes, and it can be overnight changes. From that morning, everything was fine. They make a bomb drop, say at night, and it's immediately different. Now you're the enemy. So he is an escape and avoid. Escape and avoid typically lasts a few years. And that's how I don't need to even know anything about your situation other than the bomb drop to tell you escape and avoid. If he's going to be a high energy replayer, which is probably common, that is our most common, then he is a high energy replay style. So his style of escape and avoid is replay, which is a term that Jim Conway, who wrote Men in Midlife Crisis, coined that term, replay, for this stage. But really, it's about escaping and avoiding, and replay means they're trying to do over their life. So I do not want you trying to convince him about how this woman has not been faithful in her marriage, or how she's, say, an affair down, or any of the negatives, because it's not that he doesn't believe you. He's invested in not believing you. He's limerent for her. What did you say? They said they are in love. That is your key word. They either say they're soulmates or they're in love. High level words to show they are in limerence. He's addicted to her. It doesn't matter what you do or what she does. Limerence wins when it's active. So that doesn't mean in 5 years limerence is going to keep winning. It's a battle. And it's just a piece of the battle. The whole midlife crisis isn't limerence. Limerence wins when it's active. So no matter what you say, she could go off and she could poison her husband. He will defend her. She could fake a pregnancy, or she could trap him with a pregnancy. She could tell him about it and manipulate him, and it would be obvious to everyone. He will defend her. You could come to him with absolute, irrefutable evidence of her previous infidelities in her marriage. He will defend her. So trying to tell him and get him on your side of it about how horrible she is isn't going to work. So you've got to stop that. It might be obvious. Limerence wins. Okay? So that is the most important part. He's right in the middle of a standard midlife crisis. He goes every weekend and he stays a night or two and then he comes home. So he has not moved out of the home yet. Pardon me, I'm going to have a drink. He hasn't moved out of the home. And I'm keeping my phone next to me because we keep getting telemarketing calls. And if I keep it next to me, I can mute it faster than if I have it over and we listen to it ring for a longer time. Or the ring is louder if I don't hit that button. So the question I have for you is, how is this working for you with him coming home while you know about his affair? Does he know that you know? From the way you've talked, I'm going to assume that you do, but maybe you don't. You didn't say. So that's one of the things that needs to come out. It needs to be out that you are aware of the infidelity and it's inappropriate. This is not how we're going to do this. Now, understand, you're not going to give him an ultimatum. You're not going to say, you need to choose her or me, because he will choose her. Remember what I said, limerence wins. He will choose her. He might tell you, oh, I'll try and choose, and I'll work on it. Okay. It either won't be genuine and real, and he'll keep going over to her. He's just doing to place at you. Or it won't work, or he just won't do that. He'll just lie to you. And he will just choose her anyway. He'll say, oh no, I choose her, and he'll leave. So I would prefer it that you set up a boundary saying, you know what? It might sound like an ultimatum, but you're not going to say you choose her or me. You can say you choose either to stay or to leave, or you can choose to be an appropriate spouse, or you can leave, or maybe you don't have to put yourself in it at all. If you're going to continue to see her, you need to leave. And I would rather MLCers leave than spouses leave, the left behinds. The person who wants out, and that's the person cheating. The person who wants out gets out. Now, be careful. This is brand new, and it's raw, and I don't like to encourage kicking them out this early. At the same time, there needs to be a balance of when it's becoming an abuse. And if you know that he's seeing her, and he's leaving on weekends and coming back, and leaving on weekends and coming back, and he knows you know what he's doing on those weekends, there's a problem. Because what it's teaching him is that she's allowing me to do this. She is letting this happen. She's enabling it. And that makes you complicit in the affair. So I want you to figure out what there is that you can do. I would rather he chose to leave rather than you having to say, I've packed your bags. They're out there and you're no longer welcome here. I would rather it be, you know what? We need to have a talk. You're having an affair. It's not appropriate. You know it's wrong. I know it's wrong. We're not going to leave that open for him in discussion like I think it's wrong. He'll try and argue you out of it. It's not wrong to me. We're soulmates, blah, blah, blah. What? Yeah, whatever. But while you're in a relationship with her, you need to find somewhere else to be. It's not appropriate. And it's not even appropriate for her. So this is not where you should be. I would rather he choose, even if it's kind of you doing the choosing, but not you kicking. Notice in that way, it's a little more passive on your part because you didn't pack his bags, put him out in the car. I had to do that once, which is why I used that as an example. Saying they need to leave is one level of you. It's still you kind of initiating it, but actually packing their bags, shoving them out the door, changing the locks. There's different levels of it. I want you to do the lowest level. What I want the most is that he chooses to leave. You have a choice to make, buddy. You could stop seeing her and stay here, but I don't want you to say that it's me or her. I don't want the language of you in there. If you wanted to put the language of family or the house, but not even us, because us could be construed as the two of you as a marital unit. And see what you can do with that sort of boundary. He will leave. I'm sorry. MLCers leave. He's going to leave anyway. If he doesn't leave anyway through this, and this just keeps happening, what is that going to do to you? It sounds terrible, but that is a worse situation than you are in now. I'm sorry, you're in a worse situation now. It just doesn't feel that way because it hasn't stretched out as long as it can. But the situation you are in now is not sustainable. So I want you to think about that. Okay, I am going to move on to our second question. And this question is an anonymous female left behind and forward moving spouse. She has a bomb drop of March 12th, 2022, so she's just a year in. A date of marriage of 1993, and her husband is a clinging boomerang and a low energy wallower. She said, he's very kind. He travels for work. We are together on the weekends, so it sounds like he's a low energy wallower and he lives at home, which is common for low energy wallowers. We're together on the weekends, and it's more like a dating situation. Should I be more guarded or continue to be available? He's more concerned with what I'm doing and who I'm with. But I did get the I love you, but I'm not in love with you speech, and something is missing. He packed his things, but they're still in our home. So I can't tell if he's still living at home because he packed his things, but they're still in our home is very common for those who have moved out. You say he travels for work. That makes it sound like he has a home base that's home. Probably a moot point at this point. MLCers pack their things, and often they take the bag with their underwear and, some socks and a few shirts. But the main items stay at home. They might trickle out over time. So what you're seeing is normal. And it is not abnormal if they take more than that. Because I don't want everyone who's experienced, but my husband didn't leave stuff at home. He didn't leave the memories here. That's not abnormal. There's a spectrum. But it is completely normal for many to leave stuff at home. Lots of stuff, most of the stuff. Not worry about coming and gathering it. Things that are personal to them, that are from their family, not yours. That sort of thing. Should you be more guarded or continue to be available? So first, you haven't talked about an alienator. Let's proceed for a moment as though there's no alienator, which is more common with a low energy wallower than with a high energy replayer. That doesn't mean that most low energy wallowers aren't in an affair or are. I'd have to check the statistics. It's just compared to a high energy replayer. They are less likely to have an affair if you're low energy wallower. What I would like, you're early in the situation, not fully early, it's a full year, but I would like you to continue what you are doing in being there and rebuilding and being this comfort zone for him. If you can do that, and be detached. Continue to work toward greater detachment and your healing. That's an if. If you can work on that detachment, if you're not spinning and emotionally unstable because of this, then I want you working on the rebuilding of that friendship. I want you there. You're together. It's like a dating situation is a wonderful situation for many people. And I want you to use it. Use that simply to show grace, to give him his space. So we're together and I'm comfortable with us being together. You're not pressuring it for more together. And by more, I don't mean non-weekends, I mean emotional togetherness. He just needs to know that he can be comfortable and safe in your presence without feeling pressured. One of the things that I did in the beginning, and it wasn't for a full year, well, I probably went overboard, but before Chuck left, we had about 6 weeks before he was able to get into his apartment, from bomb drop to the time he could move. And I determined this is the time. I only have 6 weeks to do this. And then he's gone, and he's going to go further away. I just could tell. I didn't have someone saying, they may have been, but I could just tell this was going to get worse. And there was an alienator, and it was not physical yet, but he specifically said it was going to be physical. They were intending for it. He just wasn't doing that while he was at home. And he could have been lying. Many are. In this case, they had a discussed anniversary date that was later, so he wasn't lying at that time. So they waited that much, and it was planned. I knew I had until that relationship was more physical and more intimate, that I was possession into 9 tenths of the law. I still had more right of wife. I had a little more power than I would later. And I was going to use that to rebuild much of the friendship that had gotten lost. We didn't have children at that time. We had jobs, and I had a long commute. I left early because I was in graduate school, and then I just finished graduate school right before bomb drop. And so I'd leave early and spend time in my office at work, working on schoolwork, and come home, and I would go into my office. And so my sin was neglect. I was doing this before grad school also, because I'm a writer, and grad school was writing, so it was the same as before as it was after. I changed that. I changed it immediately. At home, we ate dinner. I think we ate at the same time, probably sitting on the couch, different foods. Probably both made them. I think we both made our own food. We sat there. So the most part of it that was together was we were eating at the same time in the same room. We didn't bother to eat formally at the table. We didn't bother to make a mutual dinner. So that was the first thing I changed. I changed it. We ate together. I sat down. I sat him down. I put plates out, and I fed us the same food. I did it immediately within the first week. So I knew what changes I had to make, but that was also part of my rebuilding. The next thing is, I don't want us all to jump through hoops, but I do want us to know what our personal sins in our marriage were. And mine was neglect, which meant that so many people are going to advise you not, or to give them space, which is a good thing. And I advise the same thing, but don't pursue. I was not a pursuer. I was neglectful. And so had he thought I was not pursuing now, was I doing more of the same then? Was I continuing to be neglectful? So I had to balance this. Don't pursue, but still be communicative. Still try to engage with him. Otherwise, it was more of the same sins that I had done that were part of the reason he wanted to leave, what he was giving. So we have to balance that. So my goal was to, if he asked me to do something, I was going to do as much as I could to be available to do that. So, I couldn't get off work to do something, things like that. I don't want to say jump through hoops, but I'm sure I was jumping through hoops for a bit. And I don't regret it, because I needed to show him that he was a priority in my life, which he hadn't felt. And the hoops I was jumping through, hey, would you like to go biking with me? We can go out to Point Defiance and let's go around the loop. Would you like to go cross-country skiing with me? I made sure to do those things. Acts of service and time together, I don't know how it's referred to, are his love languages, especially that quality time. I made sure It has to be quality time in acts of service, doing things together. Loved that. That was his biggest deal. So I made sure I did those things. I stopped off at his work and helped him build a trail. And I did it after work, and we did these things together. That was part of my rebuilding. It was intentional, deliberate. I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew that I was doing something that was in preparation for him to leave also. I knew he was still going to leave. Sure, you dream of being able to present it, but I could see it wasn't really going to. I just knew there was a foundation that was being built. And that's what I do with you. What I want you doing here is you're paving the way. You're building up or rebuilding the foundation, shoring up the foundation of the us that you've already built, making sure it's strong, adding to that strength. So should you be more guarded? What are you being guarded about? Maybe, but I don't necessarily see that. If there is an affair and he's being monster at you, maybe. But right now, the more guarded you are, the less vulnerable you are. So be as guarded as you need to be to detach. Now, the next question many may ask is, why should you detach? This situation sounds like he's rather open to her. He doesn't seem to be abusive, given the information. Why should we detach? Detaching is something you should do no matter what. Detaching means that when we are with another person, and that person right now, for the example, it is our spouse, we are attached in the sense of we have a connection to them. We have an emotional connection, but we aren't attached or entwined and entangled where we can't come apart. So that when this person gets angry, I'm stuck to their anger. And it means my emotions become angry, or my emotions react and become something else. But it's created by their emotions. Attachment is an emotional entanglement. And that is the type of attachment we are trying to be detached from. So that when he becomes emotional, you can be calm. You can be the calm and steady force. Just like with your children, you have your child having a tantrum. How does it work if you start screaming too? Your child needs a calm and steady force. Not that I'm trying to minimize or make your already regressing MLCer a child. But we want to be calm. The other example I like to use is that of a heart surgeon. The heart surgeon his or her daughter has a heart problem, and an emergency comes up and they need emergency heart surgery. Can that surgeon be detached? It's going to be a horrible situation if that is the foremost heart surgeon and the only one there, because they have to detach every day on their own patients, and they care about those patients. They may love those patients. That patient may be their neighbor. Maybe it's the little girl next door that they know personally. They know professionally they have to detach and go in. If it's their daughter, they're probably like this. Do you want that person shaking with a scalpel at your heart? They may not be able to detach in that level of emotional way with their child. They may be able to, and it doesn't mean that they're horrible emotionally because they are. But if it's their child, it's a big challenge. We need to be able to emotionally detach just so that we can thrive and be stable emotionally. So if this being close to him is detrimental to your detachment, then I would give yourself more space than you are having. If it's not, I would like you doing it, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm going to take a drink. And so I talked a lot about detachment on that one. So I'm going to pause for a moment, and I do the Facebook Lives as the opening of the cart for my membership for Left Behind and Forward Moving Spouses, Stand Up and Thrive. So I have just opened the cart today. The cart is open for the membership for a week. And this is a group. Oh, hi, Tessa. I'm sorry, I haven't even been looking. It says you said that hi 8 minutes ago. I try to watch the comments, everyone, just so you know. But sometimes when I get talking, I just get talking. Stand Up and Thrive is a membership for forward moving spouses. It helps you deal with detachment. It helps you get into a support group. Embedded in the group, Stand Up and Thrive, is my course, which I used to offer outside of the group, Detach and Thrive. Detach and Thrive is an 8-week course and it's all online. You can do Detach and Thrive on your own. We used to offer Detach and Thrive with a group coaching option for 8 weeks or as self-study. And what I've done now is just embedded into the membership where you can get full access to Detach and Thrive. And instead of group coaching, we have meetings. We have one group coaching a week and 2 short Zoom meetings a week. And not everyone shows up for those. And some people show up when they're available. You can just join to do Detach and Thrive. It is $35 a month or $347 a year. So what that means is you can get Detach and Thrive, which takes about 8 weeks to go through. And you can pay for $35. You get full access, but it drips out over 8 weeks. So the next month you pay $35, you keep going, and it will be done in the 2-month period. You should be able to have had full access to the course. I used to charge $347 for the full course with group coaching. Now, not that I want people leaving after 2 months, but you can get it and not have to continue on if all you wanted was the course. But we do have 2-hour group coaching. It's a week and those 30-minute Zooms. And if anybody's interested, you can talk to any of the other people in the group that are out on the Facebook page. I know Tessa will talk to you about it because she does a lot. And I'm going to post a link to our page, which will go over it. Or you can email me any questions. If you're on the email list, all you have to do is reply to my emails. Stick in the header something, questions about membership or Stand Up and Thrive. So hold on a second now while I go back and get the comments. And then after that, we're going to go on to question number 3. So Stand Up and Thrive, I'm going to go put this in each group page. Okay. There we go. And let's make sure it came through. Okay, so question number 3. We have another anonymous female left behind and forward moving spouse. Her bomb drop was January of 2022 and date of marriage is 2012. She doesn't know contact type or energy level yet. She says, my ex-husband refuses any face-to-face with me. He told me at bomb drop there was no chance. Oh, no chance of reconciliation. And never talk about good memories we had. Or, that's in quotes, never talk about. So I don't know if it means he never talked about. We haven't seen each other since March of 2022 in court. So I will tell you right now, given that I don't know the rest of the context, texts, all that, but general, I'm looking at possibly a vanisher. Okay. Vanisher is if you don't have any contact. So you might have had email, phone, and so he might be a distant contactor that is an off and on. And if he phones you every week, which doesn't sound like it just from the way you're making it sound in the beginning, if he doesn't contact you regularly all the time, he's probably a distant contactor, which is off and on or vanisher. So we haven't seen each other since March of 2022. He moved and won't say where. Very common. I'm okay on that. He kept his Facebook private, but now it's public. There's no evidence of an alienator, but I don't look. Good for you. He filed and I countered. We were divorced. The divorce was final in November of last year. We don't have kids. He says I ruined his life. Sorry. I have monthly contact with him, but unwilling on his part. So what I'm going to guess is that he's an off and on. It's unwilling contact. You're initiating it. But since it's unwilling, you haven't said that he didn't respond back. Otherwise, you might have just said, I contact him, I get nothing back. Normally, I call that a boomerang, not a clinging boomerang. But I really think that you're probably looking at more distant. Okay. No friendly conversations on text. So does that mean he does text you, but they just aren't friendly? Does he monster? If I try, he ghosts. So no response back. I told him last August that I missed him, and he became awful. Now he won't respond to anything except business stuff. Why is he secretive about his real life, but not on his Facebook now? Why can't he see me face to face? Why never talk about our good times? Is this normal? Do you have any insight in what would be helpful, as I'm not really being given any added avenues to attempt reconnection, and I'm losing hope. He's wiped me from his memory. Okay, first thing, there's not a lot of reassurance. I can tell you that you're not wiped from his memory. You've been together for 10 years. You were married in 2012, and about 9.5 years later or so was bomb dropped. Hold on. You're not going to be wiped from his memory. He'd like that right now, okay? So there's a lot of different reasons. First thing, some of the questions I have are, think about the triggers. What might have, and you might not have it. No, I can't figure out a trigger in my situation, but for the most part, we look at triggers that are 6 to 36 months before bomb drop. Common trigger being death of a spouse. I mean, death of a parent. Sorry. But it could be an illness, could be job change, could be new house, dream houses, friend's death, myriad different kinds of life-changing events that often will force someone to face their mortality. Then that trigger comes along, and that sends them into the crisis, and it starts the journey. What was that trigger? If it was a death of a parent, why was that parent's death doing that? Just what do you know about their family of origin? They rewrite history now. So he's going to start rewriting. Why is he rewriting history? He's rewriting your history because he has to explain why he's doing these things, because to you, maybe to others, it doesn't make sense. That's not right. So he has to figure out, well, I must be doing this because it's not necessarily they're lying. He's trying to make sense of his actions in his head, and I wouldn't be doing it if it weren't because of this. And this, he's going to reinterpret his feelings on it or his actions on it. If he feels negative now, positive feelings that were 2 years ago for something don't make sense to him. And so he has to make sense of it by figuring out, well, why was I acting that way then? I must have been pretending. I must have been, lying. I must have been being tricked. They will come up with reasons. And it's not a lie. They're just trying to make sense of it. So let's look. And he's not making sense. He's not finding anything positive in him. So how can he find anything positive to say? He hasn't figured out how to rewrite things positively because he doesn't feel that way. And he doesn't know why. So he also may be filled with guilt and shame. Now, what I'm telling you, especially given that he seems to be extremely angry and a distant contactor. So contact for necessary business. And I say necessary if it seems that way. If he feels like he has to respond back, and it might just be a 2-word text saying, see so-and-so for the taxes or something. It's that is not a boomerang communication, even if boomerangs are aloof and lack emotional connection with you. That is business. So I'm sensing a lot of anger, but there could be guilt and shame. And if he's ashamed of who he is, he either has projected it enough onto you that when he sees you, it brings it out more, or that he knows he feels that way and is avoiding you because of it. Now, the caveat with that is we don't know. We don't know. Those are guesses, especially when it comes to those who are, say, vanishers. Well, I can give you a lot of information about clinging boomerangs. I get a lot of senses about them. I had a clinging boomerang. I can get a lot from the back and forth that we see and that we feel with them. The body language, the type of text they send, what's going on psychologically. Vanishers, you can give me little bits, but he hasn't contacted me. Why? There are so many reasons we just don't know what's going on with the vanisher. Are they sitting in a depressive state thinking about us all the time? Or are they partying all the time and not calling us? Why are they not calling us when some of them are so emotionally connected and attached to the point that they're constantly sending us mixed messages? And so I'm really sorry. The part I have to say, the bad news is that the more distant contactors somebody is, more they are a distant contactor, the less the odds of reconciliation are. There's not a statistic to back that up, but there is logic to back it up. If you don't have contact with them, with somebody, how do you have a relationship with them? And so it can be seen why those who are, say, a clinging boomerang has a greater chance of reconciliation than any other ones. Clinging boomerangs are often the ones that say, I just need you to believe in me. No, I don't want a divorce. Yeah, I'm living with somebody else and I'm having an affair with them. No, I don't want a divorce. I just need you to stay strong. I'll leave them for you. They come home. They leave again. They make promises. They break promises. But notice one thing about the vanishers. They don't make a promise, so they don't have anything to break. We may feel more betrayed by the clinging boomerang because they're constantly lying to us, or we feel betrayed by the vanisher because we don't get closure. You don't get anything. You don't get answers. And that's why it's so hard. So I'm really sorry that I don't have a lot of answers I can give you. I can tell you what I want you doing is working on yourself, regardless of what he's doing, how he's behaving. I want you to work on getting healed. I want you to detach and thrive. Thriving, that is an attractive force for him if he's going to pay attention. But if he's not, we can't control that part. But there are other people out there. And I don't just mean other intimate relationships. I mean friends too. That you can be an attractive force and a light in their life. And that gives you your community. That will lead to your next intimate relationship, if that's what you're going to choose, if he doesn't return. That is going to lead to your confidence. Detach. Don't just survive, but get to the point where you are thriving. How do you do that? With your detachment, I start with mindfulness. I think that mindfulness is the most important healing tool in your detachment toolbox. I want you to work on your self-focus, your self-development, get back anything you lost. Even if you thought you had a perfect marriage, right now, it is not going to get better while you are broken. I can't make a guarantee after that when you're not broken. I can pretty much promise you it won't get better when you're not better. It won't start. He won't turn back to really look at you with an interest when you're broken. If he senses you're broken, if he senses you're pining, if he senses you're pursuing and desperate, a victim on the floor. And when you get back to that space where you are confident and independent and able to be interdependent, and you are thriving, and you are an attractive force, you might change your mind. And you might not. But you're going to be fine anyway. The most important thing is that you focus on you. If you have kids, anyone who does have kids, you take care of those. You take care of your family and you. And you let them go through their journey. Okay? Let's move on to number 4. And wow, I have just been spending a lot of time on each one. So we're going to see. Number 4, we have an anonymous female left behind and forward moving spouse. Bomb drop was, I think she means 2023. Sometimes I get a typo. It's a common one, so I don't know if it's something that comes through, but it says 0023, so I think that's 2023. January 15th. And it says date of marriage 0086. I don't know if she means that that's 86 or if there was a typo there. So, but let's look at it that way. She says contact type is a boomerang and does not know energy level. She says my husband had an MLC 12 years ago. It's happening again? I plan to stand what should I expect and do for the repeater. So here's what I'm going to tell everybody about this situation. And it doesn't always work out exactly as I've said, but if somebody has a midlife crisis, this is important for all of you, for you newbies, and your MLCer is yanked out, that's the way I describe it, yanked out the front. In other words, they are stopped from continuing through their journey. And they're stuck. They're not stuck in the middle of the tunnel. You pull them back out. They come home. Typically, everything is pushed under the rug and stuffed away with the skeletons. And you move on with your life and you think everything's fine. Not 2 months later. If it comes back 2 months later, it's still the same midlife crisis. But 10 years later is common. They will have, years later, they will have another midlife crisis because you have to go through that journey and it will be worse. Typically, it will be worse. So she says he had an MLC 12 years ago. One of the questions, did he go all the way through it? I've seen some that have, and they come back for another one many years later. Or did he go partway through, or was he really at the beginning? So when I say it'll get worse, or I mean this crisis will be worse, maybe that's dependent on how far along they were in the tunnel. Because you didn't say, I thought we had a midlife crisis, but then it was fast. Was it really fast? Did it end faster than what we say is a 3 to 7, upwards of 7 years? If it ended in 18 months, that's fast. And that would be, he got yanked out. We have one who, it seems like a midlife crisis, but from the descriptions, he also went all the way through it. But there was enough trauma in the background and enough of a trigger. So what should you expect and do for the repeater? The same things that you would expect if this were just a midlife crisis that hadn't happened before. You are to detach. Your job is to thrive. Your job is to be and show the unconditionals. Those are grace, agape, and forgiveness. Maybe you're not ready for them. What that means is maybe you're not ready to forgive. It's okay. I am not demanding you must forgive because forgiveness can't be forced. Agape even can't be forced. Grace can't be forced. But you're allowed to do those things right now. What I would say is not an unconditional, and something I want people to have when it's time and when it's earned is trust. That is not an unconditional, though. You are allowed to not trust someone who is not trustworthy. But forgiveness, that it means that you are putting aside the energy of your anger. And that's a gift not only for them, but it's for you. So you give and be grace. You show empathy. Root everything in empathy in your communications. So that is one reason I feel that understanding midlife crisis, as in the course that I created, it's free, can help to understand so that you can have a greater sense of empathy and an understanding of the psychological foundations that are going on. You ask why they're doing this, oftentimes the answer is because it's a midlife crisis or limerence. And then we understand that limerence wins. Or one of the things that goes with that is they affair down. Why is he doing this with somebody who's nothing like me and is the opposite? And she has 5 kids with 3 baby daddies. And she's on drugs or all of these terrible things. Affair downs. Why? This doesn't match anything he would have ever gone for even. Or she's trying to become like me. It's not uncommon either. Or he's trying to make her into me. She dyed her hair so it looks like mine now. Seriously. Why? Your job. Set all of that aside. Understand that it's there and detach. Your job is to simply be calm and set those boundaries. So he's a boomerang. If he lives at home, odds are he may go away. Okay. It's been, 2 months? 2.5 months since bomb drop. MLCers leave. Is he having an affair? Odds are he is or will. You don't interfere. You have communication and you are kind during your communications. And you have to balance that with boundaries You have to balance it with knowing about an alienator. In other words, if you know about her, should you keep her a secret? I am not of the mind that we keep that a secret, but you also have to be careful of, well, wait, he's not living at home. I found out about her. He hadn't said anything about her. I don't want to give her the energy by bringing her up. So there's a balance to that. It's like, yeah, I know you're seeing somebody. I'll talk to you when you figure this stuff out. Or I don't approve. You have moved away from the house, so I know that you've taken away that as my right to say anything about it. So, but you and I both know it's not appropriate. And I'm really disappointed in you. Those will work with some. That's another tactic and way of coming at it will work with somebody else. You have to figure out what works with yours. So I would expect him to escape and avoid. I would expect, and I hate expectations. I wish we had different words, but the common things are that he will likely have an affair. I would understand what it means to be in a limerent affair. Understand what it means to be an emotional blackmail. The ML seer is often being emotionally blackmailed by, you're being emotionally blackmailed by them possibly, but they're being emotionally blackmailed by the alienator. Understand the pull of that. But most of all, understand what you need to do for you. You have to be, if you want him to come home, let him come home to somebody who is whole and healthy. Whole, healed, healthy, detached, and choosing joy. Okay. Let's move on to number 5. We have an anonymous female left behind and forward moving spouse. Bomb drop was July of 2019. Pretty sure because it says 1019, but that would be a long time ago. And date of marriage of 2004. This ML seer is an off and on. Yeah, I think that sounds about right. He's been a vanisher in the past from maybe and a high energy replayer. She says, we are continuing our communication by email. It's been going on for over 2 months now. Is it really normal to be talking as if nothing happened? So there was a recent death in the family, and she was able to initiate contact to offer condolences and then continue some communications. So is it normal as if nothing happened? It can be. So it's quite hard for me, to be honest, as I was very traumatized after bomb drop over 3.5 years ago. And here we are communicating like we're friends as if nothing major happened. Just not sure. I'm not sure if this is healthy for me, to be honest, because a lot did happen. He was what I would have called an extreme monster. It's horrible. He talks about his life work and asks about mine and asks after our dog. It's, I'm sorry to say, actually unfulfilling for me because it's such surface level chit chat. Am I doing the right thing here? Only if that's what you want to. It's all your choice. It's not right or wrong. I don't think you're enabling it right now. Something negative. If it just continues forever this way, then yeah, I would slowly, gradually, just, like, it was nice talking to you, peter it out. But I know it feels like a long time. It's only been 2 months that you have reinitiated this communication. And it's friendship building, and it's slow, and you are dealing with a wounded animal. And when you're dealing with a wounded animal, you have patience, and you let them come to you, and you let them earn your trust that you're not going to bite them or you're not going to trap them. All of the things that they're afraid of. So they're going to tentatively take a little step, then maybe peck and then run back to the corner. They'll run up, grab the food that you have sitting in your hand, or you had to put the food 3 feet away from you. They'll snatch the food and run back. Let them do it. The next time, and eventually they'll get a little bit more, not brave, but more vulnerable. Allow themselves to take more risks and be vulnerable, letting down their guard and letting it down more and more. And you're just doing some of the rebuilding. It may or may not go anywhere. Eventually you can get to a point where you ask, what are we doing? Or you can say, I'm so sorry. I've been trying not to bring up things that are really tough because I don't want to stop what we're having right now, these conversations. But I just have to say it because it's bothering me. It's bothering me that there's this elephant or this wall. There's an elephant in the room, and it's what happened between us, but it's never talked about. And I don't know what to say about it. And maybe the only thing I can say is now that I've said something, even though the something was, what do we say? How do we face this? How do we break through the wall that elephant has built? And he might run back to his hiding hole. I would wait a little while longer. I still want him to come out a little bit more before you do that. So I think you're doing the right thing if you can handle it. Okay? That's an if. Because it's not the wrong thing to not do that. Okay? Okay, the next question I'm going to skip over. That's number 6. Because I have already sent an email to that person saying I need some clarification. The sentence, it was one small line, and it didn't even make sense in the sentence. So I'm going to skip over to number 7. We have an anonymous male. Yay! Left behind and forward moving spouse. Bomb drop was December of 2020. Date of marriage is I think this one is wrong. It says 1968. So it could be 98, it could be 2008, but there's a 19 in it. So that one would. Contact type is a vanisher, and he doesn't yet know energy level terms. He says, following bomb drop, which was late December of 2020, she moved into her own apartment, abandoning our new home, and after our youngest graduates from college and moved out of state. So she says, after our youngest graduates, did you mean graduated? April 2021, following bomb drop, she filed for divorce. Okay, so a few months later, she filed for divorce. She was confused and admitted she didn't want the divorce. There was a limerent object in the picture that came in around that time, April 2021. But as of now, to this date, I have never mentioned that limerent object, the alienator. And I'm pondering if I should, as we have contact on and off regarding business terms. So in other words, she filed. She said she didn't want a divorce. It might be in the next paragraph, but does that mean that she unfiled, that you stopped the divorce and there's no divorce in process? Okay. That's the first question. Following, okay, there we go. Said it'd be in the next question. Following divorce, which was finalized December of 2022, so only a few months ago, she has been a vanisher with the limerent object, with the alienator, living like a teenager and hanging out with old divorced friends from the past. So she's been a vanisher only since December. And what kind was she before that? Was she off and on, or was she more close, regularly close? Because she did say she didn't want a divorce back then. I received an email on this topic regarding informing my now ex-wife. I know I need, not sure, because that could be the email on this topic that I wrote this week, so I don't know or if you received something personal about your situation. I need add, knowing my wife and listening to her, she regrets it, but won't admit it yet. We're both 55. Should I inform her that I know? So let's just briefly talk about the topic that I sent out in this week's email. I believe it was Monday. It might have gone out Tuesday because I think I finished it on Monday night. Should you let your wife know? Yeah, I do think that's important. Now, there are a few different ways you do this. One of the things is if she were living at home, it would be more about an approach of, this is inappropriate, and you can't be here anymore type of conversation. Excuse me, hold on. But since not only is she not home, she's also divorced now. What you're doing now is simply informing her that I know that you've been seeing somebody, and I don't even know, this is me, I don't even know how to say how, and I don't want there to be a judgment in there. I just want her informed that I hear you've been seeing somebody, or I know that you've been seeing someone, and you don't have to put how long, because I don't want there to be, this is inappropriate, because I love those things. I love you've been cheating on me, blah, blah. Right now, after the divorce, she might run from that. I just want her to know that, I just want you to know I know that you've been seeing someone. And I don't know what that means for me, but then you can say, maybe I miss you, or let me know if I'm here for you if you need me. And then maybe you should leave it at that. You just go toward working on yourself. Go toward focusing on you so that this relationship with this alienator can burn out and she's going to look toward you. She already said she didn't want a divorce. And she got one. She said one time she didn't. Remember, limerence wins. And she's in limerence. If limerence lasts 12 to 36 months, and understand that's an approximation, that bond drop, say, was 2020. So at the end of this year, does that mean 3 years? If she's been with, it came in the picture in April of 2021. So you are at 2 years now of this alienator, and that might be limerence. So you could have another year of limerence. But what happens if it goes beyond that? There are a few reasons. First thing, it could have been stretched out. Limerence that is kept secret and illicit, especially illicit, can be stretched out longer. But also, other things can take over. When limerence is done, there's emotional blackmail. They're still in crisis, so they're not ready. In other words, I always get, well, why, if limerence is over, why aren't they coming back to me now? The alienator was only a symptom. The alienator was not the problem. Was why. So hold on a sec. So sent 15 minutes ago. Sorry, I'm way off. Teresa says, it appears that those who vanish have more of an opportunity to go through their entire crisis process. I hope so. And that is the thing that we're doing right now, say with this one, if she's vanished, with the previous vanisher, is we give them that space to do that. And we trust the process. We're not trusting in them. This is more of one of those global universal faith in process, accept the process of a midlife crisis. And that now they might have an alienator to interfere with it, but that's not within our power. Because we were like, it's not fair. We were trying to let them go to the process, and this other person came and interfered and gummed up their smooth, and straight through journey and slowed it down. Too bad. It's not ours. We accept the process. One of the things that happens in this process is anger. One of the things that happens in this process is affairs, infidelity, other relationships after divorce, before divorce, all of those things. Accept the process. Accept the process that they're confused. They don't know what they want. Because they don't know what they want, they have to explain why they've done things. And they explain it through projection at us and rewriting our history. They make us the enemy. We're easy targets. What I think you should do with this situation is I think you should let her know, but not in you're doing something inappropriate and I figured it out. I don't have stupid written on my forehead. That's for a different situation. This one, very gently. I don't want you to make it sound like it's been that you just figured it out. But I know you've been seeing somebody, not you are seeing someone now, but you have been. So that you're not implying how long you've known. If she asks, you can tell her. You can tell her, I found out about it, or I figured it out this, and I know that it started here. Or I figured it out here. And I think that, maybe that's when it started. Maybe you don't know, but you're assuming. Be upfront and speak gently. I like a firm voice. In other words, you have some confidence, but I want a soft voice that is rooted in empathy for this. Because I want her to feel safe. So figure out how to do this, because she is right now a vanisher. How do you do this empathy in writing? And if you know how, share it with me. Because I like it best in voice, but you might not have that option. So figure out, maybe it's through a card, but that might be too sentimental, especially since she's seeing someone. But figure out if she will respond if you initiate a contact. And if you do initiate a contact, how do you make it so that you're not just going into this spiel of, I hear you have somebody? What other excuse can you start the contact out with? I was just thinking about you, and I wanted to know I'm doing okay. I miss you, but I'm working on moving forward with my life. I'm doing well. And I know that you're seeing someone, so I don't really want to say I hope that's going well, but I hope you are finding what you needed in life. And if you ever want to contact me, I am here for you. And then you leave it at that. Okay? Okay. We are close to time, and I have one more. So I'm going to do that one more. Okay? Our next and final is number 8. Everybody's anonymous today. We have an anonymous female left behind and forward-moving spouse. Her bomb drop is November 5th of 2020, and date of marriage is 1995. She has a boomerang who is a low-energy wallower. She says, my husband has been cat-sitting houses since he left the alienator's home after living with her for 5 months. But since he had nowhere to go for a few weeks between cat sits, and he still pays our mortgage, he's been here at home, sleeping in the spare room for the last 2.5 weeks. We've had good moments, and he even said we would get together again. Then, much to my surprise, said we would get together. Do you mean that he was professing a faith in reconciliation? So I can't tell by the phrasing. Okay. There was more connection than there had been after bomb drop, almost 2.5 years ago. I managed not to get angry until he said he'd go out for a smoke and then have dinner with me, and he stayed away for an hour. Yeah. Turned out that he called her. He called the alienator. He had promised me to keep contact with her low during those 2.5 weeks. I told him that it doesn't go together. He has 2 relationships. And that he can't live here as long as she is still a part of his life. He thinks that it should be possible, and he blames me for it not being possible. Okay. He will leave soon again to cat sit another house, and I'll miss him. How should I respond? I feel so torn. So, I think that at this point with Chuck, I would have set that strong boundary. But you say boomerang and not clinging boomerang, and Chuck would have been wanting the reassurance, and he would have been abusing and coming home and coming home and coming home, even though he kept leaving. And so what I felt by that time is I had already built that foundation I talked about, where I felt we were solid underneath, and he was going to keep coming home to me. I just needed to figure out how to stop the leaving part and get the healing part started. With yours, I don't think he's there yet, because he's still blaming you for why he can't have a relationship with both of you. That is an early thing. I see that more frequently in the beginning or the closer times of NLC when they've left for the first or second time, and they're like, of course I can have 2 relationships, and they're trying to juggle this double life thing. And then he has to blame somebody for why he can't. And that's why I say that I don't think he's at the place where when I told Chuck, call me when you choose to be an appropriate spouse. And he knew, because we said that before, that meant he couldn't be with her. When she's out of your life completely, and the people that are with her, anyone that was with her in that social circle, when you're choosing not to get every one of them out of your life, that means you can't contact them. Call me. It was called no contact with an exit clause. There was always a way out. And I told him it was not if you leave her or things, if you choose it to be appropriate. It was when. We're not there yet here. Okay? We're just not there. So I would rather have, if you can handle it, you still continuing doing some of the rebuilding. I agree with no calling the alienator. And what you have to do is say, you know what? I don't like that you have contact with her. You know that. But the thing is, I can't stop it. Now, I was gracious enough to let you stay here. And what my expectation when you stay here is that you will not contact her while you are here. If you're going to do that, you have to go somewhere else. Now, you have told him the boundary of it. So I don't want you to get mad at him after that. he might have stepped out of the house. I would rather that he walk if he's not going to drive away. And then you have to do something. You have to curb your anger from it so that you're not going to lash into him, because he still has to feel safe coming back to the house later because he's staying there. Excuse me. He feels like he got his head bit off. And then he had to say something. And blaming you was the easiest. Of course I can't have a relationship, or of course I can have a relationship with both of you. And the reason I can't, it's because of you. But had he not felt cornered, he might not have come up with that. That's an argument of a cornered animal also. So one of the questions that I know from a few recent communications we've had with, I've talked to others about, is that comes out is should I apologize? Should you? I don't know. I don't think it was so much. I would rather than an I'm sorry from you, I would rather just like, you know what, next time let's revisit this and let's put up a few, let's talk about how we're going to handle this, because I want you to be around here. But I feel disrespected when you communicate with her in not only in my presence, but when you're in my household, when you're in my space. And I know it's not that, so I'm not going to say you can go leave the house to contact her. You can leave. It's almost, it might not really be, but it's giving a permission. It's, I can't stop you from contacting her. But you need to do that when you are not here. That doesn't mean during the 2 weeks. It means just he can walk away from the house and call her, because you can't stop him from doing it. And so I don't want him to be feeling angry now and like he has to hide something when he came back, because he shouldn't be telling you he went to call her anyway. But he shouldn't feel that it's something he has to hide or with a big lie because you're going to bite his head off. He could lie about it. And I would too, if I just left, and let's say he's just in a relationship with her, but it's not like limerent, and he's trying to get rid of her, it's trying to end, and he leaves to call her. Is he going to come back and really talk to you about it? Do you want to have that conversation? Do you want that much honesty? I want him to be honest if you're in reconciliation and he bumped into her in the store and he has to just let you know, I just want you to know I saw her at the store. We bumped into each other. I mean, really, I was backing up and I bumped her car. I didn't mean to. I just said hello and walked away. But I wanted you to know because we have an agreement that I will tell you. Or I wanted you to know she called today. I wasn't checking the caller ID or she had it blocked. I answered the phone. When I found out it was her, I hung up, or I said, you know what? I'm really sorry. We told you that we're working on our marriage and you can't call anymore. And I hung up. Those are things that you come in and you tell. And if you were to bite your head off, you were to bite his head off at that, he'd stop telling you those two. But this one, he shouldn't have to tell you. And you shouldn't have to give him permission about that. It's just one of those. He's only staying at the house. He hasn't come back because he's returning. And if you can curb your anger and let go of it, I want you to work on that friendship some more because he's comfortable with you. Okay? So I hope that one makes sense. I know that you can talk to me later. If it didn't, I'm going to see. Looks like that is all of our questions and comments for today. And we are over time. I have to be at the school in about half an hour, so I have to get ready. And Detach and Thrive is open. It is open now. I checked that the links were working, but if you have any problems, you can still email me. It is open until next Thursday at 9 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard. We're in daylight savings now. Pacific Daylight Time, 9 p.m. next Thursday. So I will be sending out a few more emails. The last day I do send out the reminders. I think the day before I sent out a 24-hour reminder, and then the day of I send out a few more reminders about the cart closing. I am going to try to get an email out tonight for anyone who wasn't here or to the rest of the group, but I haven't written it yet. And I have counseling with Jeremiah. I have to come back and get dinner, and then we've got a STEM, Science, Technology, Engineering, Math competition for Serenity, so I don't even get home until probably 8 o'clock. Chances are my email will get out tomorrow if I can write it. So be patient on that one. I've got a lot of work to do, but I hope that all of this was helpful for you, and I will see you in all of the questions as I pre-record them, or you'll see me. Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.